I can't type at all. This is really bad.
I know. This is not good.
I feel like typing is one of those things that like really goes quickly when you're not awake. When you're running on low sleep, like you can bullshit your way through a lot of things. I feel like typing, not one of them.
Yeah, that's probably accurate. Especially when I'm typing things for one of our episodes, because my brain barely works as it is trying to write something for this. Yeah, so just becomes extra hard.
Well,
that's what she said.
Well,
you know what else she said? She said, "Welcome to the."
She would never say that.
She said nothing because she killed her attempt to segue to an intro.
The music happened at some point, I'm guessing. I'm hoping. And here we are.
Yep.
Yeah.
What is wrong with us right now?
I don't know. I feel like we need one of those like mall maps that just has a thing that says you are here and tells us which direction we need to go to get to Baby Gap.
Well, that is the weirdest part, I feel like, for this episode specifically of the Fairly KickAss podcast with Zack, with Dan, with Jay. It's the finish line is in sight. It's right there. This is like the easiest topic of the year because this topic is the year. This is the year that was 2024, and we are doing our review of the same. We are going to hit you with what we thought were the best and worst songs, best and worst albums, best upcoming new artists. We're going to have some laughs along the way, as long as we can get our heads out of our asses, which apparently the three of us are incapable of doing at this moment.
Mm-hmm.
But, you know, some of our best episodes have started exactly like this, listener. So you're in for a treat. That's all I got to say.
That's a pretty low bar.
I was trying to remember what the topic of the episode was where I was choking and dying.
Oh, that was Sex Jams.
Oh, thank you. Okay.
It's a classic. Hell yeah.
Sure. Appreciate you, D'Angelo. That's all I got.
I will forever see him in that light now.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Can never unsee that.
Nope.
Maybe we'll have enough. I think we have enough to do maybe next year, like a top 5 Fairly Kick-Ass episodes. Just go full meta on
it. Shortest episode we've ever done.
Damn. Damn. But we're getting ahead of ourselves because we're not even through 2024 yet. So do y'all have a place where you'd like to start?
Well, I think I'd like to start by just asking how this year felt in comparison to previous years, because if I'm being perfectly honest, my musical wrap-ups, not to claim a very specific platform on which that would give me a wrap-up of my listening for the year, was all of my top artists were from last year.
Ooh.
So I was just curious how that played out for y'all.
I would say that for me, like this year felt, if I had a word for it, it would be complete. And I say that in terms of the last 5 years being incomplete in so many different ways, above and beyond the world of music. This year felt like it was a standard year of music. Not necessarily a great year. I'll certainly echo that. I do feel like last year and even 2022 was a better musical year. But at least this year did approach like a level of normalcy that was, I don't know, kind of comforting in a weird way, I guess. So it had that going for it.
Yeah, that's fair. And I would say like my short list of albums for best album of the year is quite long. Even the best of these did not crack my top 5 of listens. Dan, how'd you feel about it?
It was a great half a year. I feel like everything on this end picked up once we got into the summer, and like the beginning of the year was very rough. We had a brief layover of 2023, and spoiler alert, February was god awful.
Yeah.
And then we get to the summer and things start to pick up, and there's a couple of other albums that come out that really shift the paradigm of the year on the chart, so to speak. And then we get a bunch of stuff that just is, as I imagine, is a prerequisite for your albums, that just stays in constant rotation for you. So you're like, okay, well, this must be one of the best of the year because I can't stop. I can't not listen to it by the time we get to the end of it.
Right on.
Now, Jay, a question for you, kind of piggybacking off of that. Like, we have often noted that the album releases and the charting singles are kind of inversely related to one another. And I'm curious because for me, at least, like it's the exact opposite of what Dan just said. Dan, like my favorite stuff this year came out in the first half, and then the second half went a little more downhill. So it's always interesting how it kind of, ping pongs like that. But I'm curious if that was what you saw too.
No, actually, I basically it was a bell curve or a bell end. I don't know. It's
sake.
the beginning of the year was pretty slim pickings, and then the summer really beefed up what's on my list, and then started to peter out a little bit again as of maybe September, October. So yeah, again, nothing. No, I shouldn't say that. There's some great stuff on this list. I'm really excited to talk about some of these albums.
Well, let's get into it then. Let's jump right in. If you wanted to start, since you're pretty stoked about it, what was your best album of 2024 and why?
So, why? That's a tricky one. The what was fairly easy, and that one of my criteria for what winds up as the best album of the year has to do with number of re-listens. And it's a little hard to do that with stuff that comes out in October and November, but I did my best, and I listened to things like 070 Shake's Petrichor a lot after that came out, and Rag and Bone Man's What Do You Believe In I listened to a lot, and David Gilmour's Luck and Strange I listened to a lot. And those are all on my honorable mentions list as well. But I'm going to stick to a trend, and it seems like every year I come up with an album that came out in February and then stuck with me the rest of the year. Now, partly this time it's because it got a re-release in September or August, maybe. And that was Jasmine Bean's Traumatic Livelihood. That album stuck with me the whole year. Really poppy, really catchy tunes with a darker underbelly that just drag you in with their wonderful lyrics and just the emotional turmoil that's going on inside and letting it all out, but in a fun and lively and just really beautiful way, bearing all for us to join in that turmoil in the best possible mechanism.
It's one of those where you always think, like, if you look at the track list, like sometimes the album or the track titles are just going to be random words and phrases, and you're not going to glean anything from it, right? And then you look at Traumatic Livelihood's track listing, and you see tracks with names like Shit Show and Bitch with the Gun and The Blood Brings Color and Fluoresce. And you have a little bit of an idea of what you're in for.
But also, like, you would be wrong if you assumed that those songs were like, super emo and just, I don't even know how else to describe that, but like, they're not. They're poppy, catchy, like beated songs. It's great.
with this seedy underbelly, like that you mentioned as well.
Oh yeah, it's still there. They're dark, but great and fun. And honestly, lyrics from both Terrified and Is It Safe almost made my list for best lyrics of the year. So didn't quite, but almost.
Yeah, that one, I remember you speaking just so highly of that one back in February. And I always wonder, like, the ones that are early year, like, is this one going to have staying power for Jay or for me or for Dan, even in the charting singles in the same vein. So it's always cool to see an earlier release that just kind of sticks around until the very end. That's really cool.
Yeah, I thought so.
Yeah. Dan, with your album of the year, did you have that back that far as February, or did you come a little bit later than Jay did?
A little bit later, because it all relates to my things stopped sucking after the summer. And I have a different perspective when it comes to albums, because most of the time I do not hear records unless they all chart. And I just like, well, there's 9 of the 12 songs here. You may as well just listen to the whole damn record. We actually talked about this one back in August and a little bit more in October when the expanded and remixed version dropped. And Well, I bet the eagle-eared of you would tell me that, how can you call this your record of the year when the best you ranked any of its songs were third in a month? I say, shut up.
Got him.
Part of the whole or something like that, because the best record I heard this year remains the sixth joint from English Dynamo Charlie XCX. It was Brat. And why? Dale, it's a record full of bangers that runs the pop gamut from front to back, a very well written record. You do have your club anthems, you have more moody tunes involved, and if all the songs were just about getting hyped up for your night out, it would be a great record to do that with. But she reaches all over the place for material, from relationships with other artists, personal and professional, to contemplating motherhood and the whole concept of the mean girl and underwear. But we talked about guests a couple months back. Ultimately, though, I think one of the biggest determiners for me whether a record is on this list and is worthy of that is, like I said, just how often do I come back to it and how many playlists does it end up in? And Brad is all over by Spotify there. Von Dutch and Apple and Sympathy is a Knife. And my deep cut, I think about it all the time. Actually, I think like 5 of the record songs end up on my Wrapped playlist, and it's just that good. And bonus points for it, coming from 2 places. First, the remix of 360 featured Robin. And if you work with the woman who made the greatest club track of all time, then you're good by me. And second, when she put out the deluxe version of Brat, it's called Brat, and it's the same, but there's 3 more songs, so it's not. And then when the remix album dropped in October with the aforementioned collab with Billie Eilish, it came as Brat, and it's completely different, but also still Brat.
You just gotta love someone who just fucking had fun with it,
Right?
It's hard to knock a record when every title for it feels like it fell out of a Monty Python sketch.
Yes.
Although that's kind of the amazing thing about this album, that not only is it just like kind of silly and goofy and tongue-in-cheek in that way, but also more than any other album this year, this is the one album that I continue to see other artists referencing as their favorite album of the year.
Yeah.
By far.
I mean, I can't think of another summer in recent memory that had the summer named after it.
That's true.
Yeah.
That's strong.
We had a Brat summer, and then we have to go back to having a Hot Girl summer.
Yeah. Honestly, like I didn't expect you to say Brat when your whole lead up, right up until you said that you hadn't ranked something above number 3. Yeah. That's where it threw me a little bit because I thought you were going with Sabrina Carpenter.
The also in there, but because it also ends up on a lot of playlists too. In fact, you just add that record to my honorable mentions, but I forgot to add to my list of honorable mentions.
Fair enough.
Yeah, that Sabrina Carpenter album was absolute fire as well. Neither one were my top albums, so we went 3 for 3 on not having overlap so far.
Nice.
Good for us. My number 1 album of the year was one that was released in, I want to say it was October. Of course, I didn't do my research because I never do. It does borrow a bit from this artist's 2023 album. And truthfully, the 2023 album that came out was also just fantastic, just perfect in every way. Or so I thought, until this album came out, and it turns out was 100 times better than the 2023 release. That 2023 release was called Michael. The 2024 release and my best album of the year, Songs for Sinners and Saints, courtesy of one Killer Mike, going by Michael and the Mighty Midnight Revival. The Mighty Midnight Revival, the name of the gospel group that Mike worked with throughout this album, as well as Michael, and just adds such a cool dynamic and such a really cool kind of gravitas, I guess, for lack of a better term. The album just doesn't miss. It just does not miss. It's not a surprise because Mike has rarely missed himself since his Run the Jewels days and even well before then. As you could probably guess from the title and the work with the gospel group, this is a very religious and very spiritual album, yes. But don't let that fool you, because Mike still goes into a variety of topics, including drugs, depression, and the fragility of life. He approaches each track with a sort of ferocity, but also a sort of serenity, depending on the topic, depending on the portion of the song that we're in. Sometimes you'll hear both in the same track, and both are awesome in equal doses. Mike is every bit as great as a flow master as he is a storyteller, and this, I am confident, will go down as his magnum opus.
Very cool. Yeah, that was one that I had missed because Killer Mike's name wasn't billed on it. So I had missed that one, but went back and listened to it, and that is a fire record.
It's the criteria that you mentioned, Jay. It's the one that I came back to the most.
Yeah, no notes.
Well, what about the notes for the things that just barely missed your cut, which is still a pretty prestigious, mark to have, the almost best album of 2024, Jay? Hit us with some of your honorable mentions real quick.
So every album that I have on my honorable mentions list is there because it was a no skip record. So for example, if it shows up on any jam that or smart shuffle or something, I don't skip the song. And for honestly, the one that almost made it was a battle between Jasmine Bean and Pearl Jam's Dark Matter. That was an absolutely wonderful record. Came out in April, and no skips on that entire album. Next on the list would be Dua Lipa's Radical Optimism. Again, next tier down. Wasn't really in contention, but deserves a mention. That rhymed. See what I did there? I also had Willow and Pathogen. Weird that I loved it as much as I did, but I kept going back to it because it was different. Nothing More and Carnal came out in June, and I listened to it a whole lot over the summer, and then it kind of fell off the radar except for a couple tracks. King Gizzard and the Lizard Wizard and Flight B741. It's a no miss record. It's just a cool album. Everything on it's really crisp and fun, and I absolutely love it. I would put for a completely different reason, David Gilmour's Luck and Strange makes that list. I don't know how to describe that record. It's Pink Floyd light. Like the guitar work's all still there, but there's a more of a pop element that didn't exist in Pink Floyd stuff. And Gilmour is wonderful. And the song he did with Romany is just beautiful and brilliant and probably the best song on the record. And I already mentioned 070 Shake as well. And Rag and Bone Man. Rag and Bone Man might have been in contention for the best record of the year. I do love that album, except half of it has Calvin Harris on it, and it throws it right out the window.
Yikes. Calvin, step that game up, bro.
Oof. Yikes.
It really, the ones with Calvin Harris are borderline unlistenable. It's bad. And then lastly, I'll mention a later release as well. I believe it was October, and that is Halsey's The Great Impersonator. An absolutely flawless record, just shy of making the mark.
Yeah, if I had to guess, I would have guessed that Rag and Bone Man and 070 Shake would have been the 1A and 1B for you.
You know what? It was a tough call. The Calvin Harris really helped me make that decision in that one. And then for 070 Shake, I just thought it was too recent. It was November. I did listen to it a lot in November and December, but it didn't have, I didn't have 10 months to listen to it.
For sure. It matters.
So it matters, and it probably is unfair to judge it on that criteria, but also it's a great record, and I will continue to listen to it. So, yeah.
As a note for 070 Shake, who I know is listening to this podcast, because everyone listens to this podcast, release your shit earlier in the year, and maybe you'll have a better chance of being number one on Jay's list next time. Just putting it out there for you.
Because as we all know, that's the goal of every artist, is to be number one on my list.
That's what we keep hearing in the industry. I mean, Billboard Hot 100 is out, bro.
Didn't you know that this show right here is the true trendsetter of what the year in music is going to be, and everyone knows it.
We will accept our payola in Bitcoin, Venmo, PayPal.
And listens, viewers,
reviews,
all the spins, please, God, please.
Or just toss a couple sponsorships. That's all I'm asking.
Easy money.
That's all
I mean,
I'm
for
asking
us.
for. Okay, so Dan, did you have anything that came close to making the cut for you?
Yes, of course. Certainly a few things. I kept mine pretty short though for that whole reason. Probably the best record Ariana Grande ever put out, Eternal Sunshine.
Agreed.
There is a lot of Max Martin glitter wrapped up around a pretty personal record with a good amount of emotion written into this, into the power pop or pop power, however you want to look at it. And that's not just a trend chasing thing with Wicked being, all the rage right now at the box office, because that was over the summer too. That's all I'm saying.
Mm-hmm.
A little bit before that though was Billie Eilish and Hit Me Hard and Soft. And it was probably a more ambitious record than Happier Than Ever. But at the end of the day, it's a legit one of the most beautiful albums of the year in every aspect. And then look towards a producer working at his best. I'm going to be ready to duck when I say this name, but Future Metro Boomin's We Don't Trust You. Because I think this has some of Metro's best work, which is actually saying something. Yeah, that was the face I was expecting, because I know you don't like Future.
I do like Metro Boomin. It's such a tearing. It's a rending of the senses on that record.
I found a way over it. And I'm just going to leave a spot here for GNX, because I haven't. It's all basically charted in the first week of December, so I haven't listened to it yet. But I know that, like, if we were to do this list in like a month from now, it would totally be here on the top 5.
Yeah, probably,
without a doubt.
Like, yeah. So I may as well throw it out there now. Now, what about you, Zach?
So we're going to come in, I think, with our first overlap, if memory serves, and that's going to be Dark Matter. A beautiful album, as Jay already mentioned. No skips. It's 1, 2 all the way through. An album, this was my kind of earlier album in the year that I just kind of stuck with me. It was Heems and Lapkin. Lapkin, I don't know what work they've done. Heems coming from the group As Racist, both of them coming together to put out what I said at the time was going to be the best hip-hop album of the year. I was kind of right, because Songs for Sinners and Saints kind of not really a hip-hop album in its truest form, but the Heems and Lapkin album called Le Founder, and it was just absolute fire, bar after bar of wordplay and some really deep topics all the way through. Gorgeous, gorgeous album. And then one that I might get some flack for, but I don't care, because I thought that this was every bit as good of an album as it was hyped to be, and that was Cowboy Carter. Of course, by the queen herself, Beyonce. There it is. I'm getting the Sam the Eagle from Jay. That's what I was hoping for. No, it was a polarizing album. It was. Yeah. I think half the people I talked to loved it. Half the people I talked to hated it. I was firmly in the love category, but it was such a unique concept for Beyonce as a whole. Like, Beyonce doesn't do country albums, but she did, and she did it the only way that she could, which is the Beyonce way. I mean, there's no other way to describe it. I thought it was a great album, one of the best in her already illustrious discography too.
I would wholeheartedly disagree with that, but it's not that I hated the album. I didn't fall into that camp. It felt mostly contrived, and that was a turnoff for me. Like, it was forced. She was like, I'm going to make a country album, and so she made a country album when, I don't know, it felt contrived and unnecessary, and meh.
I think it's a fair sentiment. I guess if we did a list of like most discussed albums of 2024, that's probably a runaway for number 1.
Oh,
yeah,
absolutely.
we're still discussing it.
We're still discussing it.
And we're not the only ones, because Nashville still has no idea what to do with it, because they can't ignore it. Like they really want to.
Exactly.
Well, at least some of Nashville would like to just ignore it, but I'm like, nah, it's kind of too big.
It turns out that people of color can do country music too. A lesson that Nashville is very quickly learning, thanks to Beyonce, and more recently, I think, thanks to Shabuzi too.
Yeah,
and a lesson they've been trying to ignore since the '60s, by the way.
Mm-hmm. Hey,
shout out Charlie Pride.
Charlie fucking Pride. Let's go.
Charlie Pride.
Let's go. Give the man his due.
Damn straight.
God damn. What were we doing again?
I don't know.
I think we should move on to the next category.
I think it's a great idea.
I don't know what that category is.
Let's do best songs.
Okay.
we talked about the big with the album. Let's talk about the small with the tracks, the singles. Maybe they were part of an album. Maybe they were not a part of an album and just a single release. Jay, what was your best song of 2024?
Well, it's interesting because all of my runners-ups, except for one, on my best song list came from albums that were on my runners up for best albums list. I already mentioned how Jasmine Bean's Terrified was on my short list for song of the year. Sabrina Carpenter's Please, 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 wonderful tune. David Gilmour's Between 2 Points with Romany, that like just beautiful tune. MJ Lenderman's Wristwatch is the only album that didn't make my list that appears in my runner up for song of the year. That's a wonderful tune. If you didn't listen to the MJ Lenderman record, do yourself a favor. That dude is awesome. But none of them held a candle to my favorite song of the year, Halsey's Lonely is the Muse. This song, the album as a whole is too, but this song in particular displayed an internal devastation in the form of lashing out. It's vocally powerful. It is musically powerful. It's Halsey's first real foray into like rock music. This song almost has like an Alanis vibe to it, with also some really like angsty screaming at the end of it going on behind the scenes, or not behind the scenes, behind the music. Just I want to talk about a little more of the song, but I feel like that is going to spoil something for here in a little bit. But just suffice it to say that I have a type when it comes to songs, and that is something that is cathartic, something that is loud and or moving in some way. And man, Halsey really hit the nail on the head with Lonely is the Muse.
Right on, dude. Right on. Good shit. Dan, I know you got some good shit for us. What was your top song of 2024?
Honestly, I'll go ahead and just get mine out of the way because I think I have a whole lot to say about the worst of, which I know we didn't do for it, but that's kind of my shit, so I prepared for that too. Nice. And we've talked about it quite a bit. There's not a whole lot I need to add, and no one's going to be surprised that it's the easy call because, well, I'm easy. It's Not Like Us. Come on now.
Yeah, okay. Can't argue with that.
As much as I would like to argue with that, I have no way that I can argue with that.
I mean we'll come around and you probably look at the rest of the top 10, because I'll just run those off real quick when we get back there, and you'll could say like, look, there's a possibility that like any one of those songs you could make a case for it to be on top. But at the end of the day, between just being an absolute banger and having massive amounts of impact both inside the industry and out, it's Kendrick, and that doesn't even count his new record.
Yeah, and like honestly, much like your album pick, Kendrick owned this year. Like all anybody talked about from about May until, well, we'll let you know when they stop. So
right, because just when that whole talk started to die down, he's like, oh, by the way,
yeah,
here's a record for you.
I got something for that ass. Full length. Holla at me. Like, where'd this come from, dude? Didn't you just put out like 4 tracks in 5 days? Like, man, months ago? What are you doing?
But would you be surprised if the actual album cover was literally just a picture of Drake with like a clueless look on his face, and it is just I Got Something for Your Ass Volume 1?
Coming to your Spotify in 2025, no doubt.
Next week, maybe. Who knows?
Really? Now, what about you? That was the quick and dirty side of the best song. Now, what about what tops your list?
So I have to say for my number one, I wanted to see how the opps felt about it, right? I wanted to see how all of our competitors were looking at this song. And if you looked at most of the heavy hitters, this song was number 1 or number 2 on their year-end list. We're talking The Times from New York to LA. We're talking Complex. We're talking even the keepers of the charts themselves at Billboard Incorporated. To put it in his own words, motherfuck the big 3. Because it's only Kendrick Lamar. Of course, it's Not Like Us. What else would it possibly be? Come on.
Damn straight.
It'd be Halsey.
It could be Halsey. That would be a good pick too.
I was absolutely waiting for you to, when you brought up Billboard, I was waiting for you to swerve us and hit us with Shabuzi. I'm like, well, I mean, it was number 1 for like literally the whole year, so it's going to be hard to argue that one down.
Yeah.
I don't hate the Shabuzi. It grew on me after a while.
It did. I admit that. It really did.
But yeah, you said all there is to say. This song didn't. I mean, the song is a diss track. The song is purely a diss track. It's not an album. It was never meant to be a #1 hit. It was just too good for its own good. Because Kendrick Lamar is also too good for his
own good. Exactly.
No, I think it's just fine for his own good. I think it's too good for Drake's own good.
Oh, well, that goes without saying. However, there was some that argue that Pip farting on a snare drum will be too good for Drake's good.
No, I ain't farting on no snare drum though.
Thank you. That's all I was trying to get.
Waiting for what about? Sorry, the reference threw me off.
No, it's fine. It's fine. I already gave my honorable mentions for that song of the year. I only had a handful. Dan, did you have stuff that came close to Kendrick, or is it like a wide chasm in between?
Yeah, well, no, actually not as wide as I would think of by the sheer numbers. There's only 2 points up on the top of the table. I just literally took all of my review charts and slammed into one giant, and that's how I got here. So this number 2 song, Chappelle Ronan, Hot to Go. Number 3, holding on all the way from January, it's Victoria Monet and On My Mama. Oh, yeah. Going to number 4, Megan Thee Stallion and Hiss. Off of Cowboy Carter, Beyonce rolling number 5 with Daughter. At number 6 is Post Malone and Blake Shelton with Pour Me a Drink. Number 7 is Zach Bryan and American Nights. And I think now I might push Pink Skies into that and swap those two, but that's just me.
That's right.
Number 8 was Eminem featuring Big Sean and Baby Tron with Toby. Number 9, Big Dogs, Hanumankind featuring Calmy, and rounding out the top 10, Olivia Rodrigo and Obsessed.
Okay. That's a hell of a list. That's a strong list, bro.
A couple of surprises in there. I ain't mad at anything on that list. Just a couple of them surprised me. You did pick the single, like one of the top 2 songs on Cowboy Carter. So,
yeah.
I'm good with that. The Blake Shelton kind of throws me a little bit.
Here's the thing is that their voices are so close. You can pretend Blake Shelton's not on that record or on that song. You just listen and you just like, yeah, it's Post Malone. It's a solo joint. And we're just going to have to deal with the fact that like, he's one of the few artists that are going to go country and actually is better at it than he ever was.
Yeah, he should probably he should probably stick to country. Yeah, that's his zone now.
Yeah, it's not a negative. That just turns out like bro sings better in country than he does in pop. Stay with it, man. And I enjoyed Circles.
Circles is all right. I like Better Now. I mean, there's some decent tunes back then. Just
certainly
he's better at this.
Turns it out. Yeah. Who knew? How about you?
I've just got a few that I'll rattle off real quick. 2 of them don't need any more discussion because the 2 of you and all of you listening have heard about these 2 tracks probably ad nauseum for the better part of a year. That is Espresso by Sabrina Carpenter and Good Luck Babe by Chappell Rowan. Both of those stratospheric hits, of course, and both of them deservedly stratospheric hits. One that was a little bit out of left field for me, that just it was just a song that stuck with me throughout the year, was off of Usher's latest album Coming Home. The song was Margiela. I think I said at the time when I reviewed it, like, this is almost like Confessions Part 3, the pissed off version, and it's just a really, really cool song. And because we are magnanimous here on the Fairly Kick-Ass podcast, let's give an honorable mention to Snow Day featuring Drake with Wagwan Delilah, which I unironically enjoyed. And was maybe the only person on earth who did.
Yeah, you might have been one. Yeah, no.
It was dumb as hell. And it was not the song that you needed to put out in the middle of the biggest rap beef in like 25 years. But here we are. It's there. And I listened to it more than once. I admit it. I vibe to it. It's got a lot of Torontonian slang that I learned. So the next time I go to the 6, I can talk about all that stuff that I've already since forgotten.
Okay.
Well, boys, how do you feel about sausages? Because I was thinking that maybe we could check out The Worst.
Oh, sure.
I was really confused where you were going to try to go with that.
I'm sorry. That apparently was weirder than I thought it was going to be. I figured that.
No. It was good. We've already pointed out that we dumb today. So, you can make all the worst jokes you want. I'm not going to get it.
Oh, they're all the worst, bro. Trust me.
Yeah. Oh, man.
Well, let's
Speaking
start
of sausages,
with let's start with your most sausagey album of 2024, Jay. What was your worst?
That's pretty easy. The most sausagey album, but I was torn between the worst of. So it would be too easy for me to list something like Tom McDonald or Aaron Lewis or something like that as the worst album of the year. For starters, because I refused to listen to them when they came out. So I don't really have anything to back up what I'm about to say. So I can't do that. So I chose to go with something that was anticipated as being listenable and then was far worse than we could have imagined. So I was torn between two. And those two albums, not that I had high hopes for the sausagiest record of the year, but that would be Little Dicky's Peanut.
Yeah, and which of his records did you choose?
Nice. It's the soundtrack to a movie that was somehow worse than the record. It didn't make any sense, or TV show, I guess. It didn't make any sense by itself, didn't make any sense in context, and was really stupid to listen to, and just bad. Like, the beats are bad, the rap is bad, it's just bad. But it was in contention with Katy Perry's Woman's World. Because while I didn't have high hopes for Lil Dicky, I had higher hopes for Katy Perry. And what the actual fuck was that?
Oh, real quick timeout. The album was called 143.
Sure.
The song was called Woman's World. Not that it matters, but
fair
just
enough. Doesn't
because
matter.
authenticity. You know, we do that, I guess.
Fair enough. Call me out on my bullshit. I appreciate that. The album was ass. Your pick. Coin flip, toss up. I think I might actually, while I do think Lil Dicky's album was worse, I think I was more disappointed in Katy Perry's record.
Because you had higher hopes, I'm assuming.
I had higher hopes, yeah.
Yeah, like I mentioned when I talked about this album in whatever month it came out in, as an honorable mention, like, I don't know that I would hate it as much if I watched the show, which was called Dave, which was, I guess, kind of like a caricature of Lil Dicky's life and, you know, coming into the music industry and whatever. I wanted to watch that show and then I decided I didn't care anymore. So
That's what I should have done.
But I did at least say, and I don't remember much of it, but I did say that I started to dig it more towards the second half of the album. So I'm curious to give it a re-listen and see if it is as vile as you remember it as, or if it has some reverence to me.
Good luck to you. I'm going to go ahead and leave it on the cutting room floor.
I don't think it's a big loss, all the same. Dan, what about you? What was your worst track of 2024?
Again, since my album listening is kind of
Jesus Christ,
restricted to all the stuff that charts enough for me to listen to the whole thing, I don't think I'm going to get a whole lot of pushback because it kind of came down to two as well. And I had to go back and forth as to which, because if I looked at my entire list, like two names are just kind of full up at the bottom here. They keep showing up and they keep showing up and they keep showing up. So I had to figure out if it was to toss it up between Kanye and Ty Dolla $ign and Vultures 1, or Kanye and Ty Dolla $ign and Vultures 2. And I think I have to go with 2 because there's still some listenable tracks on 1. There's still some ideas on 1, and there's a lot of interesting genre blending that happens on Vultures 1, and there's none of that on 2. It was like pushing a dead Chevy up a hill full of mud to listen to Vultures 2. And then you have the faceplant in the mud that is Kanye West now. It's gone.
You're lucky if what you faceplant in turns out to be mud.
I was, trying, I don't want to say being fair because there's no reason he deserves it, but like the things that drew us to Kanye throughout the beginning of his career were just painfully obviously gone in that second release, and just hard to figure out what that was replaced with.
Yeah. It's just hip hop by numbers, and the numbers were not good numbers.
No,
like imaginary numbers. There was some I in there. There was some E going on.
A lot of Fs.
Don't knock the universal constants, man.
I was waiting for that. Thankfully, this album was not a constant, universal, or otherwise.
No, this album was a Well, it was a panic room hot box is what it was. He drew us all in, dropped a deuce on the floor, and wouldn't let us out.
What imagery.
But completely correct imagery.
Oh, for sure. Absolutely. That's extremely accurate.
Yeah.
Next.
Let's get to the bottom of my album list. And it's going to be quick because Jay already mentioned it. It's 143 by Katy Perry.
Wow.
It was wholly mid, but like the lower end of mid, like giving it a D plus to be generous because of the previous body of work, because Katy Perry has come out with some really good songs in the past. Some great pop jams, and then Swish Swish, and then some other great pop jams. And then this, which somehow makes Swish Swish sound like, I don't know, My Heart Will Go On, I guess, if we're comparing it.
Oh my God.
There are a couple of decently listenable tracks on this album. The rest of it, not worth any of your time. The one perhaps saving grace for this album is that, and I don't know because I can't find this being cited anywhere, but Wikipedia does have this listed as Katy Perry's final studio album. And considering how poor her last studio album, Smile, was, like, maybe
is that just them being presumptive, or did she actually say I'm retiring from music?
That I can't find. I can't find any reference to it outside of Wikipedia saying like the seventh and final studio album. So maybe that was like an edit by someone to say like, oh yeah, she's done. Let me put this on Wikipedia. Let's fuck this shit up.
I mean, to be fair, everyone said the same thing after Witness, and they weren't necessarily wrong after Witness, but I was with you guys, but I couldn't finish the record because I actually thought there was some potential on Smile. And you're like, oh, okay, she can come back and just be in a different space, but still be Katy Perry. And then I heard a couple of the singles and I had to go back and went, is it all really like this? And I listened to the first like 5 tracks and it's all like that. And I got disappointed as another nostalgia point from the 2010s kind of disappeared into the ether.
So again, hate to do it, but Dick Shorts agrees with us too. They gave it a 4.5, saying that it's reasonable to assume that in 2024, Katy Perry, in fact, feels like a plastic bag.
God, someone got paid to write that too.
Yeah, I know.
God damn.
But honestly, like, and I forgot to mention, like, the worst part about the record for me wasn't just that it was that bad, but because it is, but also it's that bad. And on 10 of the 11 tracks, Dr. Luke was beside her.
Yeah, that didn't
and
help
actually
either.
Fuck that guy.
Fucking hell.
Yeah.
Yeah, that adds a layer of shit on top of an already complete shit sandwich.
Yeah. I made a note of that on my write-up, but it was on it was after the page break, so I didn't see it until you were talking.
These page breaks will get you, man.
I'm telling you.
You got to scroll.
I'd like to have a word with them.
The inventor of the page break.
Angry email incoming. Let's go.
Well, I imagine what it probably is just going to be a threatening meme from Clippy.
I hope so. Clippy goes hard, bro.
that dude could get.
Clippy is serving, let me tell you. Jay, I'm going to guess that your worst song is probably not serving.
I don't really have a worst song of the year. And the reason for that is mostly just because it's Woman's World, right? Like, it can't be like that's the worst album, and a lot of that is on the back of Woman's World. So that's the worst song, right?
I find it hard to disagree with your sentiment, personally. Especially the bit that you said about Dr. Luke. Once again, fuck that guy. Let's make sure to put that out there one more time. The fact that he's on any track is unconscionable. The fact that he's on this specific track
right,
is beyond the pale to me.
Yeah. Like it almost makes sense that he was on Big Energy or whatever. Like that almost makes sense. This one it's just crass.
Yeah, it's like a slap in the face. Like it's anyone else. Not that it would have been a good song if Dr. Luke wasn't involved, but again, the layer of shit on top of the shit sandwich kind of rears its ugly head yet again.
Yeah. It's real bad. I can't handle it.
Mm-hmm. And the music video is somehow worse than the song.
Wow.
I haven't seen that, so I will take your word for it.
Curious. I might be curious enough to check it out. I was trying to find it on the Grand Master list, and it did. In 291st place.
Out of how many?
290, I'm guessing.
No, actually, 301.
Okay, so there were.
It is literally the 11th worst song of the year.
You've got 10 songs underneath it.
Uh-huh.
What's the bottom of the barrel for you?
Good God, here we go.
How much time do you want?
I mean,
do you want to just come back to me in a quick? Do you want to just come back to me in a quick second? I can edit real quick.
Sure, let's do that. Let's jump ahead to see what Zack had at the bottom of his list. Is it also Women's World? Like, did that make sense to you too?
It 100% was. There was, like you said, there were every other song in the entire year, and then there was Women's World. Like it's one of one.
Sorry, Dan, we didn't give you much time to edit.
No. You're, that's it. I got one line out. That's all I have. Huh? All right.
I mean, Zack, do you have more to expound on the?
You're fine if you don't. I'll just riff this.
I honestly there's not more that you could say about how shitty that song is. I could come up with other shitty songs, but Dan, if you wanted to riff, by all means, riff.
I'll try and wrap the whole thing up, but I'll go ahead and give you the bottom 10 of the year because fuck it, why not? 292 with it. We talked about Kanye and Ty Dolla $ign. That was Back to Me. 293 Four Bats Act 2 Date at 8. 294. We just literally talked about this. It was the David Guetta, Ava Max, Alphaville of Forever Young. What else do you call that? 295 was Bigfoot from Nicki Minaj. 296 was Get It Sexy from Sexy Red. 297 AJR. I believe that's your second time at the top and the bottom 10. Stop it. Yes, I'm a mess.
Bad AJR. Bad.
Stop it. 298 Jaguar Twin and Bad Feeling Oompa Loompa. A song so bad that it deleted itself from my monthly lists. I could not find it. When I went back to it,
and I was so happy.
I don't know what fucking month that was because it just gone.
Oh, we were better for not having known that existed.
Agreed. I have a little bit more for the bottom 3 because at 299, from all the way back in February. How did I introduce this one initially? Did you ever want to hear a Bratz doll screech crossover country hip hop at you? Then you'll listen to Jesse Murph featuring Jelly Roll and Wild Ones.
Okay.
So accurate.
Number 300. What if we found this one barely clever line and decided to use the lyrics to Sitting at a Bar by Rehab, but instead of sitting at a bar when my woman threw me out, I'm just in the bed of my truck? It's Hardy in Truck Bed.
You had a lot to say about Hardy back when that came out.
It did, but not as much as I did for the 301st charting single of 2024. Jesus Christ, February sucked ass. Tom McDonald and Ben Shapiro with facts.
Of course it is.
Yeah.
Do we have time for an encore performance, or do I need to go into can I say the words rap song with fucking Ben Shapiro and do you need more? Do you want more? I don't think we even need it.
I mean, you can say more if you want to. I don't want more of Ben Shapiro.
No,
rapping.
I don't need any more. I mean,
I do actually have to disagree with you on that one because to call Ben Shapiro a rapper is to call me a giraffe.
Oh, that's fair.
That's
You're
fair.
tall, but come on.
Not in the neck. I don't have it in the neck.
He did things that were kind of in time. I don't have a good Ben Shapiro. It's not a really good Ben Shapiro, but if I say I don't know how to satisfy a woman, that sort of works.
Yeah, that's spot on, Ben Shapiro.
My wife has never been wet because I don't know how that entire part of the anatomy works.
I would try to do a Ben Shapiro impression, but it always comes out sounding like Snidely Whiplash, so I don't think it's a good idea.
I thought you were going to go someplace else.
Never seen them in the same place. I mean,
It's true. You never seen the same place.
Well, we know they're not the same person. Ben can't grow a mustache.
No, he can't.
That's fair.
I thought you were going to say, I tried to do one, but for some reason, it always comes out German.
Fucking hell.
I am so glad that I will never have to listen to this song again. And let me just go back to February where I gave you this one line to explain. Like the one I love to use of how I will never do this, so you'll never catch me in that, would be I would not listen to this song performed live if it was playing at a theater and you super glued my testicles to a cannonball and fired it through the front door of the theater they were playing. But I will go with what I did, which I would rather hear Peter Cetera remake the greatest hits of Death Row Records backed by the Eagles with special guests Air Supply, Tila Tequila, Kevin Federline, and a chorus of the 50 worst rejects from American Idol over its way too long run. So I think I got everybody there.
I would pay untold sums to see the exact show that you just described.
She probably would too.
I would pay to watch you watch that show. That's what I would do.
Picturing someone like chasing Kevin Federline with the newspaper, like, no, get off the mic. You're a dancer, Kevin. You're a dancer.
You in the back. No.
In the back. God damn. No, for what you mentioned, like, Jay, I was with you on kind of the Tom McDonalds and the Aaron Lewises of the world.
It's low hanging fruit.
Exactly. It's punching down. And luckily we have Dan, who is so deft at the punch, way better than I could be.
No. When you're punching Nazis, it's fine.
That's fair. That's fair.
I'm still here for it. Don't get me wrong.
Yeah, I couldn't do that because I wouldn't have actually, except for that song, because I did listen to that song. I mean, only once. And
yeah, that's it. Legit. Like I checked 650 words on that song from one listen because I wasn't going to go back for a second.
That's more than I wrote in high school, bro. Come on. Size 16 Courier New 3-inch margins. If you know, you know.
Oh, you know. And I didn't even have to 1.5 space it because I was just that pissed.
That's just gangster right there. The 1.5
right.
space.
Now, can we not have another fucking MAGA anthem chart in 2025? Because I really would like to break the streak of the absolute bottom of the list when we get to this in December. Because last year it was Aaron Lewis.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Who at least had the decency to, write a decent acoustic line for his thing. Everything else was garbage, but at least, Yeah.
Yeah, if we could maybe make that just, I almost said just for 1 year. I'd like it just for all the years, just for the remaining years of existence. But we'll take one if that's all we can get. Yeah.
Yeah. It's going to be on blood pressure medication by the time we get to the next one if this shit keeps up.
Join the club. Lysinopryl gang.
Hey, what else do we have to talk about to wrap up 2024?
Well, the only thing we had left on the docket, it's a quick one. I think we can breeze through it, and that is the best up-and-coming artist under the lens of who do you think we're going to be talking about? And God, I hope it's not Tom McDonald and Aaron Lewis. Who do you think we're going to be talking about in 2025 and beyond? Jay, I'll start with you. Who is that artist that you feel is just starting to scratch the surface?
Oh man. So I had two again, and this is just because I think one of them is going to break pretty hard this year. She's already done a lot elsewhere, like winning a Juno Award for her dancing, and she's, doing really well in Canada and overseas, but Tate McRae, I think, is going to really hit hard this year. I think she'll get a Grammy nod probably next year. I don't know. I really see that coming. I think she's going to be dropping a record sometime in 2025. And I think when she does that, she'll get a lot of press here in the States. And then there's the artist that I really hope will do a little more too. Not that I hope Tate McRae is a little more. She's a wonderful singer, and I'm looking forward to that. But the other one that I feel in the realm of loud rock is the female-fronted Ukrainian groove post-nu metal outfit Ginger. Yeah, a lot of descriptive terms. It gets considered gent metal sometimes, but that's not really a thing. So I would like to think that given the circumstances going on in that part of the world, that a few more eyes and ears might be on them. So they should also, and they should also be dropping a record in 2025. I expect it to be amazing, and I expect it to do well on the Loud Rock charts.
Hell yeah.
Did you say gent metal?
Yes. Like,
as in short for gentleman metal?
No, gent as in the sound it makes when the guitar strings are tuned so low that all you can hear is gent. It's DJENT, gent.
Gotcha. Okay.
Today we learned.
Yeah.
That I think that's a really cool kind of 1-2 punch, because you have one that is probably far more well known even at this stage of Tate McRae's career. I think, she's still at least somewhat of a known quantity. And then you have one that, could be the sort of diamond in the rough that, that just bursts on the scene. There are always a couple of those every year that come out of nowhere and really surprise a lot of folks. So it's going to be cool to see where both of them land here in the next few years.
Yeah. And like with Tate McRae, like, I think she's on trajectory this year to pull a Sabrina Carpenter, right? Like this year was Sabrina's 5th or 6th album, and she's being nominated for Best New Artist. I think Tate McRae has the opportunity here to really make some waves on, I think it's her 4th or 5th album, maybe only 3rd. I can't remember. It doesn't matter. She's good, and I want to see her flourish.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. It's weird to call someone a new artist that has had so many releases, and you were spot on, is 3 with her or 2 so far, her 3rd one coming out next year.
Okay.
Certainly someone who's been in the game for at least a few years, but yeah, it's great to see her get her shine. That's really cool.
Yeah. Dan, who do you like up and coming?
I'll also throw out 2 real quick as well. 2 that we're hopefully looking for a big 2025. One of them was Gigi Perez. Because if Sailor Song is any indicator, I cannot wait to hear what the singer-songwriter has kicking around upstairs right now for a future full-length record. And I hope they're not big, but I hope by the base of one of those bands that tour constantly, because the way to take them in is live, is Jane Doe. They just put out their sophomore record back in September, and it's Melt the Paint Off the Walls rock from a female-fronted indie rock band.
Hell yeah.
Right on.
Want to hear some more rock?
That's a solid pick. Let's rock out, boys.
You don't even have to do it with your cock out. You can just...
In fact, please don't.
Yeah, keep all of your genitalia concealed.
Especially in public.
But still rock out.
But you should expose us to your breakthrough. I was really hoping that I didn't walk myself into that corner, and then I just ran face first into it.
That was primo. That was professional. That's what that was. I will keep with the theme and provide 2 as well. One is in the vein of this being an up and coming artist. This band formed in 2014, and like you do. It took them until 2024 to release their debut album, and I don't see that they've released really much of anything besides that. No, EPs or singles or anything else I could see, and that's the British metalcore act. I'm going to butcher it, but Harriet. I hope I pronounced that right. That album from earlier this year, Devoured by the Mouth of Hell. It was rock. It was very much the rock with the all capital letters. Cool ass album. It wasn't quite to the point of some of my other releases of the year, but still very, very awesome to see a band like that get at least not Tate McRae levels of shine by any regards, but certainly could be one that you will start to see on some of the hardcore and metalcore charts in the coming years. And then my second choice, a much more recent artist that also had their debut album this year, one that I was super, super hyped about, was The Last Dinner Party and their album Prelude to Ecstasy.
That was a good ass record.
It was a really good record. The weird thing was it left me a little bit underwhelmed, but in a good way. in the way of like, y'all are capable of more than this. This is your first release. You're raw. You're figuring it out. You're far better musicians than I will ever claim to be, even at this point. Let's not mince words. But, you know, the fact that there's such potential there that you could see like, wow, the sophomore and junior albums from this group are going to be sublime. So I am super, super excited. This is a group that's far from their peak, and a group that you are going to be hearing more about in probably 2 to 3 years when their next album comes out.
Good deal.
And that was the year, boys.
Yes, it were.
2024, mostly in the books. We are either going to be giving you an episode that we produced a few years ago to ring in the new year, or we're going to be recording a new one. We have not decided which route we're going to go yet, but either way, that is what you're going to hear precisely on New Year's Day. So this is actually the last episode that you listeners will hear in 2024. We'll start your year off the right way with us. Apologies in advance. And then we'll go right into it. You know, we've got a full slate for next year, as we always do. We've already been talking about some new segments, some new ways to dress up some older segments that we've been doing. Your favorites are all going to be coming back, as they always do. So yeah, keep that dial posted on all the social medias that you have, because social medias are controlled by dials now. It's a thing. It just came out. At Fairly KickAss on Twitter, Instagram, Threads, and TikTok. fairlykickass@gmail.com for all of your email correspondence. fairlykickass.com is your source for the ride-along playlist for this and every episode where it makes sense to do so. And also, you can find this here podcast, YouTube, Apple Music, Spotify, Google Music, if that's still a thing, all of the above. Anything that I didn't say, just search for Fairly Kickass. You will find us. If you don't, please let us know, and we will make sure we get on your podcast provider of choice.
Beauty.
And with that, boys, do we have any words for the people as we kick 2024 to the curb and bring in 2025?
You mean like homespun nuggets of advice?
If you got one to throw out, yeah, absolutely.
Don't eat cheese after 9 p.m.
You're the man. Lactose intolerance.